A very good morning and welcome to another edition of Newsline. Of course, we're coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. And as you can see, your usual host Farah Shaukat Ali is out for the day. I'm Charlotte Benedict and I will be sitting in for him today. Getting to know our guest, Dr. Lalithasiri Gunaruwan. He's a senior lecturer at the University of Colombo. Very good morning, Doctor, and welcome to the show. Doctor, the central bank governor says that there is a serious financial crisis after the 26th of October. Of course, this was after the whole political crisis that engulfed our country. Given the start of the new year, there were glimpses of hope that were given to us by politicians itself. Do you see, on a general note, just as a starting statement, that the economy will turn to a more positive direction this year?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? And your reasons for that?
We are in debt. As long as every minute, every second, every hour we borrow, we spend beyond our earnings and we live beyond our means, there can't be any hope.
The central bank governor had previously said that we've been living beyond our means for the past 70 years. And after we graduated eventually to a low middle income country, now we don't get loans at concessional rates that we used to get loans at. So it seems like we are paying the bill for all that we've eaten during the past 70 years.
Well, it's a bit of an exaggeration if you talk about 70 years. The last year that we can probably think of having a positive note in the external account was 1977.
1977.
1977, we had a positive trade balance in this country. That means we earned more dollars than we spent dollars in that year. And after 1977, we saw a very clear deviation away from the import substitution oriented, nationalist oriented, local production oriented, domestic oriented economic policy towards what we call very often, very frequently saying that is market friendly open economy. And that's the end of it. From that day onwards, we have been down to negative.
The trade deficit increasing as the year goes by.
Increasing, and then even if it was reducing, it was not enough. Every time, every day, every hour, every minute, every second we live in, we import more than we export. So obviously the deficit is accumulating and that has to be bridged with loans. So more and more you get loans, more and more you are in trouble. So if the central bank governor says that it is a financial crisis, it's not something extraordinary for me. And it's only expected. And
but according to this article, he says that the financial crisis is as they could not raise a certain amount predicted by the government or
as loans. As loans.
I mean,
come on, this is not a solution. So this is just like that notorious drunkard son of a rich landlord owner grandson who was living beyond his means every day and then drinking and then playing and then going into gambling and all sort of things, and day by day he is accumulating his debts. And how does he pay loan the service the debts? By borrowing loans. Is it economic management? And if you call that economic management, you don't need economic experts to manage that way.
Tomorrow, a child could do that.
Anyone can do that, because if someone is willing to give you money, lend money, and then if you say that, okay, we got the money, borrowed money, and service our debts, is it economic management?
We see a lot of foreign countries coming and voluntarily saying we will offer you. They are offering. We are not even asking. They are offering certain loans, and then of course public officials, mostly politicians, jump at the offer.
Well, I don't want to venture into the political issue of it. But let's see why these donors are willingly pledging money to us. Since of late, most of these loans, most of these lending coming from bilateral sources.
Okay.
What we mean bilateral sources is that
country to country.
Country to country. Say for instance, Indian loans to the government of Sri Lanka, Chinese loans to the government of Sri Lanka, and some other countries also. But the issue is that these loans that you borrow from these bilateral sources are tied to projects where the business is given to those countries. Now, Chinese loans can be utilized only if you get Chinese contractors to do the business.
So
Indian loans can be only utilized to get the Indian companies to come up and do things in Sri Lanka. What they do by that way is not that they help Sri Lanka by way of giving some bridging finances, they eat into economic opportunities of this country, which otherwise would have gone into our construction industry, which otherwise would have gone into our engineering firms, which otherwise would have gone into our government sector organizations, and our poor people would be benefiting from, you know, some earning because of that expenditure. Now what is happening is our expenditure is borrowed money and spent on their firms, and they fish out of it. So most of the time 2, 3, 4, 10 times than the legitimate cost that we can do it in Sri Lanka.
But Sri Lankan people seem to be enticed by foreign loans. They like obtaining foreign loans for massive scale projects.
Because the poor people does not know what is happening in this country. Poor people's voice is not heard. Those who know about it either are corrupt or are ignorant about the national plight of this country. They are not considerate about the national interest of this country. That's the whole trouble. If a genuine person understands the true cost of a brick, a concrete pillar, a railway, a length of a railway line, a railway sleeper, or length of a roadway, why on earth that you spend more than the legitimate benchmark cost internationally that you have? Forget about the local ones. If you think that the local ones are, you know, not trustworthy or whatever, go by the international benchmarking at least.
So there were allegations about these massive scale projects being, you know, huge white elephants that the governments of the day, both the previous government and the current government, have spent more than what they have. During the run-up to the 2015 presidential election, there were allegations from the UNP that the former government could have carpeted the entire road in gold for the amount that they spent on the road. But nothing is being done regarding this.
Now they must be doing it in platinum because
situation has got worse.
Situation has gone worse.
Okay.
Now that's the whole trouble. You know, those people who blame the previous government for these borrowings at high scale, what are they doing now? Let me give you an example. Classic example. A railway engineer was awarded the best prize for the innovation of signaling system at the R4TLI conference in 2018, which was held in somewhere in June, July.
Okay.
For designing a signaling system locally to do fully controlled signaling system of the railway.
So this is a Sri Lankan
Railway Department, a railway engineer did it locally and then constructed railway signaling and implemented it and showed it to the country that it could be done at 15 million Sri Lankan rupees.
15 million Sri Lankan rupees?
Sri Lankan rupees. That's what goes in the record. I don't know. I mean, this was reported in the newspapers in 2000, I think 18 April somewhere.
Okay.
That this was reported. In Sunday Times, it gave a classic example of it with the statistics.
Okay.
I'm referring to that. Now this railway station, the cost has been 15 million Sri Lankan rupees according to that report.
Okay.
Okay, now I ask you, how many dollars that you should have spent on at that rate to do 4 stations, roughly? I mean, the people can argue that station is different, this station is large, this station is small, a bit. I agree. I mean, there can be different, slight differences. 15 into 4 is 60 million Sri Lankan rupees. 60 million Sri Lankan rupees you can do easily 4 railway stations signaling locally. All right?
Okay.
For 27 kilometers, let's say for the cable another 100 million.
Okay.
It's a bit too much, but let's
exaggerate.
Exaggerated, still 100 million.
Okay.
So 100 plus 60, 160 million, you should be able to do 27 kilometers 4 stations signaling according to that report.
Okay.
If anyone wants to have commissions or payments or whatever, another 40 million, let's say. So 200 million.
Now we're making allocations for that as well.
No, allocation for that also. So let's say 200 million, you should be able to easily do signaling of 27 kilometers and 4 stations. Do you believe that the bilateral loan has been given to government of Sri Lanka to do Matara Beliyatta railway signaling? I saw the cost as, in the newspapers, 2,200 million. 2,200
million. That is more than 10 times.
Which apparently could have been done according to this report and the presentations made at R4TLI conference at 200 million Sri Lankan rupees. Now you think that this kind of borrowing, if the people of the country thinks, now the trains are running very good and signaling system is working well, is it justification done to their interests?
No.
That's the whole tragedy of it. Bilateral lending is preventing us calling for international competitive bids. It prevents us giving the business to the local enterprises, those who can do it locally. And it robs our economic opportunity and allows the foreign firms to come up and fish out our. This is only one example I gave you. Same was done before. Same was done for the Northern Railway line with Indian Credit Line. Okay. And these people are contemplating to do it again with the Indian Credit Line for Maho and Vaunia, where it's even more criminal, because the railway line between Maho and Vaunia, about 60% of the railway line was re-sleepered with concrete sleepers recently by the railway department. Now these people are going to remove those newly placed sleepers and going to get it done through Indian Credit Line, giving the contract to Indians and getting it done at very high cost. Now these are unwanted expenditures. Simply because I offer you a loan to say, okay, I will give you a loan to buy a comb at $10. If you don't have hair, would you buy it?
No.
First of all, we need to identify what the purpose of borrowing is. If the railway line is already good and we have done 60% of the re-sleepering by ourselves and only 40% has to be done, and maybe you can borrow Indian line of credit to get rails, that's okay, because we need rails to rehabilitate it. You import it because we don't produce in Sri Lanka.
Okay.
But why do you give the railway line rehabilitation to a foreign firm? May that be Indian or Chinese or whatever. I'm not talking about the country. But if it can be done locally, why the hell are we giving it to foreign countries? I mean, if that is the case, you spend every day more dollars than what you earn. In the short run, government is willing to do this because they get all of a sudden some dollars.
And that'll show a bubble in the economy.
A bubble in the economy, and companies are coming and to tell the people also.
Foreign investment. They brag about this.
Yes,
That's one of my main concerns. Politicians in this country seem to be bragging about taking foreign loans. I recently saw this post that was circulating on media saying that Ranil Wickremesinghe, her greatest prime minister, who paid off the biggest debt in the country. Is this something to brag about?
Well, if you think that borrowing is something to be bragged about, there's something seriously wrong in our Asian culture. Because it is Lord Buddha who has said, Anana Sukha is the best supper that you can have. Anana Sukha is that you have no loans, no debts.
No debts.
And that's the best relief that you can have, because you're not indebted to anyone. Now here what is happening? We get indebted. And then donors have a say on our dealings. And of course, they will have a say on our dealings with regard to the usage of the money. But these donors, they come up and even peep into our internal political affairs through the loan borrowings. So the borrowing is giving a way for the foreigners to interfere in our internal affairs. And in that way, we lose our sovereignty. Now that's a crime. The most supreme thing as a citizen for me is my country's sovereignty. Political, economic, national sovereignty. And if anything happening to the national sovereignty, we are in trouble. Loans, foreign loans from whatever the country that we talk about, whether it is ADB, IMF, World Bank, or India, China, Europe, whatever, Japan, regardless. Loans, borrowing beyond our means, and then living beyond our means, and then boasting of saying that, oh, we have done all these things by borrow. It's a crime. It's a crime. We cannot go along this path and develop our country.
But we see the general public of this country chanting and supporting politicians when they say, we borrowed this much and we built this.
Well, if they are ignorant, they can do that. If the children of a family are joyful that the father is feeding them with chicken and all these things, but they don't know how their future is pawned by the father. When they grow up and they realize that the debts are there and their house is pawned and their property is pawned and they don't have anything to live in once the father dies one day, and then they will realize, oh, we were joyfully living through this borrowed money, and that was a crime that our father did. And that's exactly what these fathers of this country are doing today.
But one question, Doctor, do you think the people of this country are living joyfully even after these massive borrowings?
Not the poor man, but that there's a society in our country which is joyfully living. And
they're ruling elite.
Exactly, they are elites. And what is, come on, let's start it this way. What is our per capita income? What is our per capita income? We talk about $4,000. What is the population we have?
20 million.
Divide 4,000 by 20 million, you can see what a person earns a day in average.
In average.
In average. Now you think that our people in average, a poor villager's man is earning that much? $4,000 divided by 20 million. Huh? You can think of how much that we
an average person sometimes, you take an estate employee, it's about 600 to 700 rupees
a day, and majority are of that situation. Even you take a Basuk, maybe maximum he will be earning 2,500, 3,000 a day.
And this is not guaranteed income every day.
Income every day. And there are people who are spending for a meal that much in this country.
There are people who are spending over 500,000 rupees for an overnight stay for one day.
So this is inequality in this economy. Now nobody is talking about those things. And then all our policies are geared to pave this way for the rich man to live beyond the means and at the expense of the poor man.
Dr. Lalithasiri, we've been discussing this debt issue and the problem of the economy for quite some time now. We will continue this discussion after a short commercial break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Newsline. Welcome back. You're watching Newsline. We're in discussion with Dr. Lalithasiri. Before the break, we discussed about the massive debt burden that the country is having and the issues relating to borrowings of this country. Dr. Lalithasiri, we discussed the issue before the break. What do you think is the solution? Politicians come out and say it's not only politicians, but the general perspective is that a free market, a more open market would solve this issue. Is this the case?
I doubt very much. Let's think it this way. Japan is a country which has very high public debts as a percentage of their GDP. But one difference that Japan has compared to maybe the countries like ours is that their public debt is overwhelmingly local debt. They don't have foreign debt. There's a big difference between local debt and foreign debt. Let me explain a bit. I think it's important for us to understand this. Let's say in your family you have a rich son who has excess in his capital. If that capital can be obtained by the father by way of a tax or whatever of the rich son and then give it as a loan to the poorer person for him to do his activities, what happens is that you are managing your finances within your local economy. The outsider, the neighbor, cannot put the finger into your affairs because your family's foreign debt is not there. There is no foreign debt for you. It's all local debt. X person in the family is borrowing from Y person in the same economy. So Japanese economy, because of that, is self-sustained, and it's very, very rare that the occasion of the other foreign parties to come up and peep the finger into Japanese affairs. So it's free from
external influences.
Exactly. And the second thing is that there is a myth flowing around in the country. Okay, we have to tax the people in this country to pay foreign debt obtained by the previous governments and previous regimes. As you said that for 70 years of borrowings and living beyond means, and then for paving the roads paved with gold, the expenditures that were made for that you borrowed. My contention is that if anything is borrowed in dollars or foreign currency, say yen or yuan or whatever, you need that currency to pay the loans. You cannot tax people in rupees and then create dollars. You cannot. What the government can do maximum is tax the people and get money into the treasury
and buy dollars.
Which someone else has earned. If someone else has not earned dollars, how the hell government can get dollars? The only way is again borrowing more dollars
to pay off the previous debt.
So the issue is we need to depart from this economic philosophy where we blindly believe that this further opening of the economy is the way to go. We must learn to live within our means, even resources. You can tax the people, that doesn't matter, as long as the tax money is properly utilized, effectively deployed. That's a big question mark there. Second, that you can then allocate the resources in the sufficient way. It may be slower growth process. It may be the growth process may be slower because we can't go beyond kind of our means and then do extravaganza there, and the tax revenue that is available is limited, which is true. But then what do we do now? We get foreign loans, get the foreign countries to come up and penetrate into our internal affairs, lose our sovereignty. Plus, we are further borrowing to pay off those loans, and this accumulate. And what's the growth process? Growth is also 3%, 4% peanuts. And we achieved this 3% growth rate during our closed economic times between 1970 to 1977. 1970 to 1977, we had 3% growth rate, roughly. Now, what is the credibility that we have after 77, giving away all our sovereignty, all our, what we had.
For the same growth?
For the same, almost the same growth now, today. So
but in your perspective, do you believe that if the free economy, if the open economy system is used properly, we could achieve much higher growth?
Even the closed economic system we used properly, we would have achieved much higher growth. It's the way of economic management rather than the policy that we adopt. Okay. Whichever the policy will not work if the people are corrupt and people rob and people do play havoc. I agree that the markets have a role to play. But believing that markets will give everything to us is a myth. That doesn't happen. Because the market players are for their own benefit. Don't think that the Chinese or Japanese are coming here because they love us. That doesn't happen. They come with their commercial interests and political interests. And we have to safeguard our interests. Don't blame Chinese or Japanese or Indians, but blame our politicians who are pawning our country's future. And we have given out our Hambantota Harbour. And then that land is for 99 years not managed, controlled by us now.
99 years, that's almost 2 generations.
That's almost 4 generations.
4 generations, yes.
Huh? Now that is the level that we are pawning our future. And then what is the excuse? Oh, debts.
We can't pay the debt.
We can't pay the debts.
Then why did you take the debt?
Exactly. Now this is really killing our future generations' interests. So my contention is, live within your means. It may be difficult. Grow and eat, produce and consume. Try to borrow and import goods and try to live beyond your means. You're dead. Import substitution policies are badly needed in this country because export promotion has its limits. It's beyond our control. If no one is buying our things because of many reasons, maybe our lack of competitiveness, maybe what we produce are not what is needed there, there may be many things. But why do you need to import things that you can produce, make locally? It may be little more expensive, that's okay. If it is little more expensive, that's okay, because that money that you spend is circulated within the local economy. And what the John Maynard Keynes said was, you create effective demand, and that effective demand, the money that you spend is spinning off the local economy as money earned by the producers, and that those producers then will be encouraged to produce more.
That creates a sustainable economy.
Here what happens is, you spend, and your expenditure is giving business to foreign firms. You spend, more you spend, foreign firms are becoming richer. And that kind of philosophy is ruining our nationalist interests.
So as a result, we are losing the battle on 2 fronts.
We are losing the battle on 2 fronts. One, we lose our economic strength. On the other hand, we accumulate our debts. And at both ends, we are getting squeezed in. And then there will be a time, there's a Sinhalese song, sung a few decades back. Herali batalatika nupurudu amma rata hale bata kala. Kiri නැති හින්දා රට කිරි දීලා සිංහල දරුවෝ මරන්න. පිට රට හාලේ බත්තික නැත්තම් බඩගින්නේ සිංහලයා. If you don't produce and consume, if you don't live within your means, there is no future for you. You don't need to have very sophisticated macroeconomic models for this. You learn to live within your means, and then you learn to be self-sufficient, and you pay more attention to import substitution. That's the only way that you can probably overcome this economic crisis.
There's a general conception that a team or a country in general need to follow their leaders. So judging by the example given to us by the leaders, do you think that our people are ready to live within their means?
That's the crisis. I agree with you there. Because the people are being taught, particularly after 1977, to forget about the future and live today. So you enjoy, you try to do whatever, and then as long as your things are managed by...
As long as you can get re-elected.
You get re-elected, that's it. And loans, okay, that will be future government's burden, not ours. So that kind of philosophy is very bad.
So also when it comes to 2019 is slated to be an election year, and we see a lot of election handouts being distributed right now, starting with one of the most recent things that caused a bit of a stir in the country, the fuel pricing formula. Now they said the fuel pricing formula will be re-implemented once this new government was sworn in back again. But fuel prices in the international markets have been on a slight rise, but the local prices have gone down. How is this possible?
You will see more of these things with the new budget coming in.
Okay.
When the politicians are heading for an election, it's quite natural. Whichever the party in color, they try to give bonanza to the people. And that is pawning the future. People in this country, if they are really intelligent, they should understand what's happening. Right? Fuel prices is something which is a killer of this country. Even the recent reductions of fuel prices, I don't agree that that was done correctly.
So my question to you, is the fuel price formula still in action?
I don't know. I'm unable to answer that because I have no information regarding what's happening in the fuel pricing decision making in the treasury and
but generally according to the formula that they gave us.
But there was no formula. What was the formula? They
M1 plus.
Yeah, I mean that's just someone showed something in the TV.
It was not just someone, it was the finance minister at the time.
I don't understand that as a formula. You can always say A plus B plus C is D. That's not a formula. Right? I mean, I really don't know how they calculate it. But the point is, lesser the fuel price, people are more encouraged to use their private vehicles.
Okay.
More they use private vehicles, may that be cars or vans or three-wheelers or whatever. Every day we import more fuel and every day we are getting indebted. Fuel is anyway a big culprit of our foreign debt. Fuel. I would encourage the government, I would advocate a policy where fuel prices are high and the subsidy is given to public transport.
Subsidies have been given, so the public transport can be improved.
Exactly. In terms of as an alternative to the reduction of fuel prices over the past few months.
For public transport prices to be reduced.
Exactly. They could have used that money that now they lose because of the reduced fuel prices. Keep the fuel prices at that level. If they kept the fuel price at that same level, and then use that money to give an advantage to the railway and the bus fare, that would have probably driven the economy into more sustainable transport policy.
Of course, Dr. Lalithasiri, these are very creative examples on how we can solve a number of issues together, of course, with what you suggested right now to improve public transport and give subsidies to them. That'll quite solve the problem in the transport sector that we're facing currently right now. The traffic congestion, the massive traffic congestions in cities like Colombo, Kandy, and other major cities across the country. So instead of losing the battle on two fronts, in this case, we will be winning a battle on two fronts.
There was a transport guru called John Diandas. He died in somewhere in early 2000s. He had been advocating right throughout that we have to reorient our transport policy to promote public transportation and discourage private transportation. That's the only way countries solve this congestion problem, pollution problem. Some countries tried like nothing to provide the solution for traffic congestion through construction of highways. There were highways over highways in certain countries. But more highways, more vehicles, private vehicles were coming into the roads. In Sri Lanka, still we have not reached to the level of per capita vehicle ownership of our income level. If the country's people's income level rises more, if there is no way of encouraging public transport, what will happen is people will go for more and more usage of private transport. And if the traffic level today is unbearable, you're going to see worsening situation in another 2, 3, 4 years down the line. And you may be having a nice car and waiting half an hour at a traffic light. And that is going to happen. And people say, oh, you spend money and build roads. That's not the solution. Sri Lanka is a country which already has very high density of road length per square kilometer.
We just have too many vehicles that go on these roads. Dr. Lalithasiri, this transport issue is a massive issue, of course, in the country. It's definitely a topic for discussion, but unfortunately, we have come to the end of the allotted time for this show today. Thank you very much, Dr. Lalithasiri, for joining us on our show this morning. And of course, as the famous statement goes, the wealth of a country cannot be determined by the vehicles that the politicians drive. It's the day that politicians can use public transport.
That's the day that the country can be happy as we are
boast about
sustainable development. Yeah.
So with those wise words, thank you very much once again, Dr. Lalithasiri, for joining us. Thank you very much to our viewers out there for joining us. It's the end of Newsline for today. Take care and God bless.